Hello, Professor Deb here. We're going to use this video to discuss quadratic equations and factoring. So let's get started. We'll start with what the quadratic equation is. This is from your book, and it is section 9.4. So the quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. And of course that all equals 0. So we have coefficients here that stand in for a and b and c, but the significance of the equation is that we have an x squared, an x, and then just a constant. Let's start with a number. We'll start with number 2, and that is x squared minus 100 equals 0. Now at this point in 9.4, we are simply factoring this to solve for x. So we know we should recognize this as the difference of squares, so that should be x minus 10 and x plus 10. Now the only thing different in this section that we want to do is we want to solve for x. So if we put x minus 10 equal to 0, we get x equal to 10. And here if we put x plus, that's a plus 10, equals 0, x here should equal negative 10. So we have a degree of 2, and we have 2 answers for that equation. Okay. Let's try another one. This is number 8. And the equation is x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Again, we have to use our factoring skills. We know that the constant in front of the x is 1 because it's factors of 1. Now we know that the second number in the binomial is factors of 15. That would be 3 and 5 and 15 and 1. So I think if we use 5 and 3, we should get near that 2 in the middle. It's a negative number, so 1 has to be negative and 1 has to be positive. It's a positive in the middle, so our bigger number has to be positive. So that will be 5 and that will be 3. So let's check 5x and negative 3x. Yes, that brings us to 2x. So the only thing we have to do new in this chapter is set that equal to 0 and solve for x. So x equals negative 5 and x minus 3 equals 0, x equals 3. So again, a degree of 2 and 2 rational answers. Okay, let's try another problem. This is problem 16. 2x squared plus 18 equals 15x. Now remember what we first talked about, in that we want that quadratic equation to be whoops, I need an x in there, bx plus c equals 0. So we need that x squared, but then we need that 15x on this side. So we have to rewrite this equation so that it's in the quadratic format. So we'd subtract 15x, we'd keep our 18 equals 0. Okay, this becomes a little bit harder to factor. We have 2x and we have x. Now let's see, factors of 18 are 3 and 6, 2 and 9, 1 and 18. Okay, that's going to be we have to somehow add up to 15. Let's see, if we try 3 and negative 6, let's see what we've got here. Negative 3x and negative 12x. Yes, it's negative 15x. And they both had to be negative in order to come up with a positive number here. So again, what we do is set those equal to 0 and solve for x. So x should equal 3 halves in this case, and x minus 6 equals 0, so x should equal 6. And those are our two answers. Right, let's get on to another one. Okay, we're going to do number 24 this time. It's really not too much different than the last one, just a little bit more factors to have to work with. 14x squared minus 29x minus 15 equals 0. Okay, so now we've got factors of 14, which would be 7 and 2, and 14 and 1, and 12, no, not 12, I'm sorry. I can't think of any other ones. Let's see, 15 would be 3 and 5, 15 and 1. I guess that's really kind of it. I'm going to start with 7. Okay, now let's see, can we use 3 and 5 in order to get 29? 5 times 7 would be 35, and 3 times 2 would be 6. Yeah, I think that's going to work for us. So if we put in plus 3 here and minus 5, again, we need a plus and a minus in order to come up with a negative in the third spot, and we need the larger number to be negative in order to come up with a negative up here in the middle. So we've got 6x, negative 35x, should give us negative 29x. So I think you can see that we set these equal to 0, and we should get x equal to negative 3/7 and x equal to 5 halves. Okay, let's see what we've got now. Oh, okay. Here's another type of question. Here's number 30. We have 3x plus 2 squared equals 64. Now, if I take the square root of both of these, this will end up 3x plus 2. That's the easy part, right? And this will end up, now be careful, it's a plus or minus 8. So if I put the plus mark in, we should end up with 3x equals 6 and x equals 2. If I put the negative in, we should have 3x equals negative 10 and x equals negative 10 thirds. Okay, now I skipped a couple of algebra steps here, but all I was doing was taking 2 away from this side of the equation in order to get 3x equals 6. Alright, we've still got more to go. Let's try another type of problem. We're going to go to number 32. And I'm telling you up front, I'm going to start way up at the top here because I've got to leave myself some room. Okay, that's over a binomial x minus 1. And that is set equal to, where's that equal to? There it is. 7x plus 2 binomial and x on the bottom. If we cross multiply these, then we should be able to come up with a value for x. So let's do that. 4x times x. That gets one of our sides. Now this is a little bit crummy, but we can do this. X minus 1 times 7x plus 2. Okay, this is going to be the tougher side. Let's go to this side. So we're going to end up here with 4x squared. Okay, now little smiley faces gives me negative 7x and 2x, which gives me negative 5x as our middle term. X times 7x is 7x squared, and our last term, negative 1 times 2, is negative 2. So I've got 4x squared equals 7x squared minus 5x minus 2. Now we want to put this in the quadratic equation format. So let's get rid of this 4x. Let's say 0 equals, we'll subtract 4x. So we'll end up with 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. Okay, now that we've got it in the quadratic equation format, we do the same thing that we've done before. 3x and x, and we've got to come up with negative 5. So let's see, I think we're going to try 1 and negative 2. You may have to spend some time thinking about this, but we'll go on. You'll get better and better at it. So again, we have 1x and negative 6x gives us the negative 5x. Again, since it's negative in the middle, the larger number has to be negative. And again, since it's negative at the end, one of them has to be plus and one has to be minus. So now all that's left to do is set them equal to 0. That equal sign there. X minus 2 equals 0. That one I like. That's extremely simple. And the other one should be x. We're going to take that 1 over So when you get a problem like this that you have a binomial on both sides of the equal sign, you simply cross multiply. Okay, we are going to pull on some skills that you used in the last section with adding and subtracting fractions. And this will be number 40. We're going to end up adding and subtracting fractions like you did before, and then putting them in the quadratic equation format. So it may sound a little confusing, but it is the same skills that we were using, just put them all together. Now I'm going to put a parenthesis around here so that I remember the whole thing is negative. Okay, what is our least common denominator? That's going to be the whole thing, isn't it? X plus 1, X plus 2, and 20. Looks like we're going to have some quadratic equations. So we have to multiply this by 20 times x plus 2. Luckily we've got a 1 here, so that's going to make it easy for us. And we have to multiply this 20 times x plus 1, and this one we have to multiply by both binomials. Alright, let's see what we're ending up here with. We'll have 20x plus 40, and I'm going to put these big parentheses around here so that I know to carry that or distribute that negative inside. So again, I've got 20x plus 20 equals, now let's do the FOIL or smiley faces, whatever you want to call them, on this side. Let's do that right away. X squared plus 3x plus 2. Alright, let's simplify. This becomes a negative, and this becomes a negative when we distribute that in. So we have 20x and negative 20x, and we have 40 minus 20 gives us 20. And we'll bring down this side of the equation, and again we just have to set that equal to 0. So we'll subtract 20. 0 equals x squared plus 3x minus 18. Alright, now we've got it in the quadratic equation format, and we go back to our factoring. X and x. Let's see, we've got 6 and 3, 2 and 9, and 1 and 18. I kind of think that 6 and 3 is going to work for us. So let's put a 6 and a 3. I'm going to need a positive number here. So it's positive 6x minus 3x gives us a positive 3x. And a positive times a negative gives us a negative. Again, we set those equal to 0, and x is equal to negative 6, and x should be equal to 3 here. Alright, so a little bit more complicated. We took what we did from the other section with adding and subtracting fractions and finding the least common denominator, and we got that down to the quadratic equation format where we could solve for x. Okay, that's the end of this section. Next, we'll go into the quadratic formula instead of the equation. So, thank you.